So a heartfelt welcome here to this live talk about the hormones. Those who don't know me yet, I'm Mirjam Wagner, and I'm really excited to offer this half an hour talk that will be the first of many that I'm going to offer over the next month, once a month, more or less if life allows it. And this time, I really want to bring a little bit of clarity and a little bit of ease about the hormones. The hormones influence our life, our whole life, not only when we are women, also when we are men. But I really want to concentrate here on women. And we will see that it will end up that the strong changes or the strongest changes that we have next to becoming a little human being and that everything is growing and functioning. But then the other very strong period of our changes is really when we start to come into premenopause, go through menopause, and then transition into post-menopause. Many ask me, so at what age is this more or less? And I think all of them, all of you who are listening to this talk or who are present here could tell me a whole other story, whole other number. I think the youngest that I have met right now in the gym, she was changing always next to me. She's 39 and has the same symptoms like a woman who is in a full menopause with 55 or 60. So there is really no limit or no certain age where this transition starts. But the main thing why I bring this topic up and why I am so passionate about this is for us women. I would really love to understand a little bit more what the hormones are, what they are doing, how they are reacting to our life, what process and yeah, let's say process they have because they have their own aging process, and also how we can support these changes with different tools. When we look at the hormones and we talk about the endocrine system, I found it very difficult to find information that was valid, that made sense, and also that I could understand with a normal brain that is not somehow trained in scientific words or medical vocabulary. And even then, I have found that lots of professionals, doctors, or people who are working in this field, I could sense a kind of overwhelming, a kind of confusion that is not only restricted to us as a user or patients, but really also a lot of professionals who do not have the time or who do not have the interest, and also maybe do not find the appropriate tools to then really get the information that we need so that everything makes sense. So let's start here a little bit from the bottom. I always like this, even if you have a little bit an idea, or if you have read my book Yin for Life, that where I address the hormones also from Western and Eastern medicine. So even if you have read this, even if you come from a very educated background, I think it's always nice to go back to very simple and easy to understand concepts so that we see again, this is our hormone system. These are our hormones. This is what they do. This is their place. And these are their counter players or collaborators with them, with whom they are working together. So our endocrine system um, is formed by different factors, different elements, different let's say, members from our human body family. First of all, we have our brain, and from the brain, it's the hypothalamus that is the main actor here that we call the boss. The hypothalamus, which sits in the middle of the brain, within our cranial. The hypothalamus is the boss and sends the original message out into the body in form always of hormones, and sometimes also enzymes and other players come in. But we will just talk here about hormones, always knowing that they are in the body. It's always very complex. It's never just one thing that is being sent or one form of how something is transmitted. So let's start with this brain, the hypothalamus, from where the original message is being sent out. And where is the boss going to send these messages out, these orders? It's not going to go to the worker, to the end user, because it is going to delegate it, because the end worker would probably not understand the message and the hormone that it sends out and would not know what to do. So we have the manager that is put in place, the pituitary gland, the hypophysis, hypophyse for our German speakers. And the hypophysis, the pituitary gland, sits directly underneath, if this is the hypothalamus, the little hypophysis, which is a little pea-sized gland, sits just below, even combined or connected with the hypothalamus through a fascia like structure um, that combines or connects these two tissues. So the manager, this pituitary gland, is transforming, decoding this complicated message that it gets in form of very weird names or complicated cold hormones, and transforms it in another hormone which has a slightly different name and sometimes very similar sounding, but already a little bit simplified. So we have the hypothalamus, and then we have the pituitary gland that sits just underneath below the hypothalamus. And then from there, the pituitary gland then goes directly to the end worker, to the target glands and organs, and sends certain hormones, where we will already recognize their names a little bit better, directly to these different hormones, to these different organs. So then the organs and the glands, can again respond to the order through producing and releasing hormones and send it into the bloodstream. And then, of course, the brain gets this again and will adapt the orders that it sends out again to the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland, the manager, will adapt again the order that it sends to the end worker. So it is a circular system here. It's not just that the brain only sends out orders, it also receives the levels of orders or the result of the order that it has been sending out, and the result and respond from the whole company that is our body, and how the end worker, the organs and glands, are going to respond, and what level of energy, what level of stress, what level of body temperature, what level of sleeping habits, what level of digestion capacity, what level of blood sugar, blood pressure is in the body. And so this is ongoing. When we are active, of course, it's a lot going on. But during night, while we are sleeping or hopefully sleeping or trying to sleep, this process is going on. And in the night, it's really incredible to see the difference, what the response from these end organs and glands are, and what kind of hormones they are sending out and producing or not, whether these organs and glands get a nice 8-hour rest, or whether they are turning and twisting and getting up and not finding any rest. And then this will influence the whole stress and energy level of our body. So we have 4 different pathways that I just want to explain you here before we then go to the Eastern medicine approach, where we are just going to talk about the yin and yang hormones, where it becomes a little bit easier. But I really find it important for us. I wished I had understood this when I was a teenager, and when the hormone flush, the first hormone flush really kicked in, I would for sure have made different and, let's say, wiser choices along my life if I had known a little bit where these hormones come from, what they are doing, and especially how they are interacting with each other. So the first pathway from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland, also up here, goes then to the thyroids. And the thyroid is like a butterfly gland here in the front that then, of course, releases our famous hormones, the thyroid hormones T3 and T4. We do not go into what they are doing, but these hormones are being produced in order to regulate our whole energy levels in our body. The thyroids are kind of a sub-manager of the pituitary gland because they're really regulating the whole metabolism from our whole body, the energy level, and also how energy is going to be transformed. If we have deficiency in our thyroid glands, which means they are either exhausted or we come already with a quite weak thyroid gland to this world. This is also possible. So then we talk about a hypothyroidism. Hypo means they are working slow, they are not burning enough energy, they cannot produce enough energy, and this is what makes everything slow, sluggish, tired, out of energy, out of motivation and ambition. And this goes then down to all different other organs. And when we have the opposite, if they get too much stimulation and they respond too quick and too much to whatever orders and stimulus they get from the brain and pituitary gland or also from the outside, then we go into a hyperthyroidism. And those of us who have been in there or have witnessed this, this is as unpleasant as if when they are not working at all. So this is our first connection, and also geographically lies all more or less in the same area of our body, in the upper part here, throat and our head. Hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and our thyroid, responsible for our energy levels, for our sleep habits or rhythms, for our body temperature, for our energy level, for our appetite, and all of these functions of our body. Then another pathway goes much farther. It goes from the hypothalamus. The boss sends its order to the manager, the pituitary glands, and then it goes all the way down to our lower back, where our kidneys sit, and on top of our kidneys sit our adrenaline glands. To sit directly on top of the kidneys, and from the Chinese medicine, they are considered the same organ. And so here we come directly into the function of stress response. And the stress response is done with the hormones, the very famous hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. And these hormones are very important, that when the brain or when the system, the nervous systems, perceives stress, and we have talked about this in our yin yoga trainings a lot, so I know that many of you are listening here who have been with me in some of the trainings. And we know that the involuntary nervous system responds right away through the brain, but not through the part of the brain that we can control, like our muscles, when we say we want to flex and extend a muscle. No, through the part of our brain where the hypothalamus also belongs to, that responds directly to events, experiences, circumstances that we cannot really voluntarily control. And so when stress is perceived, whether I always like to bring, and this has not changed really, the example when we get a letter from the tax office. So whether it is a letter from the tax office, whether it is another dreadful, horrifying news through the news channels, whatever we are listening to, or whether it is a real threat in the traffic or out in the world that we are facing, the order that comes from the hypothalamus or the pituitary glands will make and that the adrenal glands will directly produce and release this adrenaline and cortisol hormones. They are the survival hormones that are important to help us survive and react to stress. And as we know all nowadays, many of us, we live too often, too long in stressful situations where the little and slightest event that we can have can create this reaction. Sorry. Excuse me. And so this is the way to the adrenal glands. That then brings this reaction of these hormones that are so important. I think I have to get something more to drink. Just a moment. I apologize for this. Now it's better. Okay, so this was the stress response that is very closely linked to the adrenal glands and our kidneys. We have another pathway where hormones are sent from our hypothalamus over the pituitary glands to our liver. That is important for our growth, especially when we are young and children, and for the repair when we are adults. So when something is broken, something is torn, something needs to heal, this is a very important pathway that goes through the liver where the blood flow is controlled. And there is a strong link to the muscle tissues, the bone tissues, and the blood. And then we have, of course, another important pathway that also starts again, hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and then goes to the ovaries and to the testes. And here we will see our hormones, progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. So these hormones are called the sex hormones, and we will see then in comparison with the yang hormones, the stress hormones, how much it is important to understand that we can maintain a balance that with the age, and it starts with 35, comes naturally out of balance. So we will for sure look at this now, and I know many of you are hungry for really practical tools in order to work with the imbalance. So now that we have just a little orientation about from where the hormones are or how they are working or why they are being stimulated and from where, and what kind of hormones they are sending out to the body. We will just now concentrate on the sex hormones that come from the ovaries and the testes, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and on the other side, the stress hormones that are produced in the kidneys and adrenal glands, the cortisol and the adrenaline. Because looking from Eastern medicine, from Chinese medicine, there is a very natural cycle that we can watch in nature when we are a little bit aware what's going on around us, when we live in places on this earth where we have seasons. And the word menopause, which like also when everything is blamed on our menstruation, or when we are teenagers, everything is blamed on being a teenager, and it is all the moments when there is a big change of hormones, puberty, menstruation, moon cycles, and then when menopause really starts. But I have never really liked all these terms, because I have experienced that things were only blamed on these terms. So any symptoms we have, whether it is mood swings, whether it's irritation, or well expressed anger, or changing opinions, or not wanting to interact with other people, or having problems with sleep, or having problems with weight gain, when it is just blamed to one of these terms, we are not really helped, or I do not really feel heard or seen. And even if it's linked to these hormones, to the change of hormone, what is going on in the body, it doesn't really help me. And very few are really equipped to help us women in these changes and with these different symptoms. And this is why I hope so, at least, that at the end of this little talk you have a little another idea, or a little bit broader perspective of how you could go on and really help yourself, or your friend, or mother, or sister, or whoever is in your environment. The very important part here that is we need to understand is that from 35 on, this beautiful balance that has been created by our body through the estrogen and progesterone, the sexual, the nourishing, the cooling, the yin aspect of our body that makes everything juicy and fluid, and that there is enough mass around here, and shiny skin and healthy hair, that this part of the balance that is playing with the yang part of the balance, the stress hormones that give us the necessary ambition and thrive and energy to burn something up, or to bring something through, to build something up, to stand in stressful situations and not just to break down. So these two have always been playing quite a good playing if we have a healthy constitution. If not, we had to learn already to play with it much younger. But if we were healthy with everything, then we are usually as women quite surprised when from the age of 35, this part is starting to drop. So in our internal balance, this nourishing part, this juicy part, is already being less produced. And many of us will feel it in relationship to the bones, that the bones begin to be more brittle, and the word osteoporosis comes in a little bit more, because progesterone and estrogen are closely linked to bone density. So, but we are still young, we still have power, we need to often, we have businesses going, family, children, or people to take care of, or we are busy ourselves because we love this life and love to travel and put ourselves out there. So we keep going, we keep the same rhythm, the same maybe unhealthy food, or maybe toxic relationships, while the internal balance is or keeps diminuting or decreasing. And we keep adding yang with our choices and with our lifestyle. So this distance becomes always bigger. And around the age of 50, for sure, there is another significant drop of production of these wonderful yin sexual hormones, and it will drop even more. So this is when night sweats, when sleep patterns that are disturbed, when irritation, when hot flashes are gonna to kick in. This is when this nourishing part, the reserve that we always had, that could buffer the stress and the more focused, disciplined, masculine part of us, could always buffer this other part. When this is not here anymore, the body will always go first for survival. Remember, adrenaline and cortisol are stress hormones, are yang hormones. They guarantee survival, rather than nourishing the yin hormones, estrogen and progesterone, which are responsible for the reproduction. So when we keep building up this stress level in our body and around us, the discrepancy here will always get more, and the body will naturally, even if these ones here, these guys, are really needing help and would need a lot more help and focus and attention, the body in nature goes automatically to the stress hormones and will eventually create more stress hormones, which then at the end will bring us to a collapse. So the importance here to adapt, to first of all, I think it's to recognize that, oh, I get tired much earlier, or this specific, we all have our, I do not even want to call them weak parts. We have our allies in our body that help us to notice that we have overstepped our limits. Headaches, constipation, weak bones that then get broken, or getting a cold very quickly. When we can recognize them early enough and then stop, pause, or make changes in the way we eat, in the way of our daily rhythm, how we use or navigate through 24 hours, in the way what people we have around us, and in the way we navigate our own energy. And we have been talking about this. It needs courage. It needs often a lot of pain before we start making these changes, because we still combine or link these symptoms with getting old, becoming useless, becoming weak and frail. And of course, we don't want this. But when we understand that nature is working naturally like this, and also recognizing that a woman is recognized from 45 on, from nature, not from society, but from nature, she's kind of done. Her purpose here to reproduce babies and generations is done. And so all these wonderful reproduction hormones are naturally not any more supported, produced, because now the survival is much more important. And of course, it doesn't reflect where we are. Meanwhile, the world, humans, we have, especially women, we have been evolving, and we have so much more possibilities and opportunities. So our mindset and our goals and the society we live in does not reflect anymore what's going on in the body, which is a healthy, wise guideline, but it does not synchronize anymore. And this is where we are longing for tools that help us to not really fight these rhythms, because I never find it an intelligent choice to fight nature, but how to support this balance that is naturally going out of balance, how to support it by our choices. And nowadays we have so many different choices that I just want to put a few out here, just um, in order to place them on the table. And each woman will have again her own process and journey to find her solutions, to try, to observe, to change, and especially maybe to bring it into topics when we talk with other friends and women, knowing that it is not a sign of weakness, but it is a natural cycle that life is living through us, and we have the choice today and also opportunity and possibility to um, choose how we want to go through these phases. So, I think two of the main symptoms that women are dealing with when we come in menopause, and whether this is with 40 or with 55, is sleep issues. Sleep issues and mood swings. And sleep issues, I also integrate here the night sweat, which can also be transported also during the day, which then we call hot flashes. But at the end, it is the same. It's a imbalance between the heating, um, warm, energizing hormones, which are our adrenaline and our cortisol, and our cooling, nourishing hormones, which are our estrogen and progesterone. So now, when we notice that there is a lack of cooling elements in our body, what we already logically can assume is that we do not want to add hot pepper, chili pepper, spicy food, curry that is really spicy, um, all of these elements that will again make this discrepancy, this difference even bigger. So we want to integrate cooling food, cucumber, watermelon, um, grapes, pears, fruits, um, also nicely steamed vegetable, of course, using less salt and pepper that we used before. That was never a problem. Using less sugar, that eventually can also create heat and stagnation and phlegm in our body when we use it too much, and most of the time it becomes too much because next to the sugar itself it is part of a lot of other food products that we are eating. So through our food, already becoming aware that maybe in the evening when we have sleeping problems, we do not want to have a hot ginger tea or a hot spicy thing in it. No, we want something calming, chamomile, or something soothing, other herbs that you come around, other teas that are cooling and not heating. This is a whole world with food and herbs that deserves a whole other study, or um, yeah, another time of your interest here. But just knowing from here that this is already very important, that many of us do not think about, because we like our ginger, we like our cardamom, and we don't think that these kind of uh, nourishments do also increase this out of balance between fire and water system. Um, let's say mood swings, when we get irritable, has the same thing. It's always an excess of fire that comes together with stagnation. So we need to see that there is not, that we keep something, that it is flowing, so that we do not keep heating it up, because this is very closely also linked with our liver. And it has not only to do with food, it has also to do with emotions, with setting boundaries, with not being quiet anymore about something that bothers us or that goes against us, whether it is against our values, our energy, our health, but our life quality. So this is something very important to know, that when the liver is involved here, the liver is the organ that gets the easiest stagnant, as so much blood flows through the liver and it has to control so many things and regulate so many things, that emotional health and flow is very important. So looking at our relationships, looking at our emotions and our capacity, how we express emotions, and how we set our no, and how we take our right to disappear from a party, or to be with somebody, or to not be with excuse me, with somebody. And it includes, again, switching off the phones or not answering. We do not need to answer all the time to everybody. So these are just two examples to see from nourishment and also emotional parts, how to respond to something, to see, is this an increase on excess of heat, or is it an excess of coolness, of nourishment, of smooth things? And is it stagnant or is it flowing? These are two very important factors that we want to see. There are a lot of herbs being out there, that from Ayurveda, from Chinese medicine, from food supplements, that we all have to find our way into, to see what works and what not, and then we have to try. So for the sleeping issues, for sure, they are wonderful products that help us increase our melatonin uh, production. So when we cannot sleep, not fall asleep, or we wake up in the middle of the night, there is always an imbalance of our melatonin. And so they're really wonderful products, natural products that have natural melatonin in it, with different combinations. I cannot go in there really, but this is something that for sure is worth to look at. I have been in there too, and then to see how it works. Ashwagandha is another tool. Just a moment. Now I'm again salonfähig. Ashwagandha is another tool or way that we can try and see how it works. I want to bring up here just also the topic of hormones, because I know it's a big topic. And many from us have been or have experienced or come from times and generations when the first hormones were brought into our lives. They were all synthetic, so made in labs, mostly of animal products. And they have very strong effects. They used to be, or still are used to be used in conception pills, so to avoid conceptions. And many of us have made very bad experiences, and so have really this trauma. No, hormones not, I want to have something natural. And then we go for food supplements, we go for herbs, and keep trying. And when we find something wonderful, also with acupuncture and with really a holistic practitioner to work together, is really wonderful. I think just before I go into the hormones again, but what's really, really important also for healthy sleep and for mood swings, it's really also enough movement in our life. There is a moment in our life, and I'm a passionate yin missionary. And when I discovered yin in my life, I was around 40. This was the one I needed to finally slow down and pause and learn how to bring pauses in my life and to really be rather than doing, and allow my body to break down and also to pause. But then, funny enough, comes a time in our life where the body really needs movement in order to stay strong and in order to keep things moving. Because stagnation is a lack of movement. So, physical movement, and let's say I'm talking here of, let's say, walking an hour a day or 40 minutes a day out in fresh air, walking is something very important to integrate into our life. To avoid the elevators and take the stairs becomes more and more important, so that we can make our muscles tired and keep the circulation within our body flow on a blood level, on a nervous level, endocrine system, fluids, everything that it is flowing. So movement for sleep patterns and also for mood swings, for hot flashes and night sweats, it's something that's really important to find out how to integrate it and when, but there is no question that it has to be integrated. And it needs to be something that we do not do harm to ourselves. We do not need to start and run marathons, but we need to uh, understand that movement is the key point, especially when we are over 50. Daily movement is incredibly important, as we are already sitting quite a bit, which is fine, and we need to rest, but we need to keep the whole system and connection and communication flowing. So from here I can come back to the hormones, because there is a really big difference between the synthetic hormones and bioidentic hormones. The synthetic hormones are made in labs based on animal products, have a very strong effect, a lot of side effects that many of us have maybe already experienced and then maybe never touched hormones again. And then we have the bioidentic hormones that are made, the molecules are exactly the same like the hormones that are produced by our body. So the body can recognize them in an easier way, whether we take them orally, whether we put them in form of cream or spray. Some prefer to insert them somehow in patches or other ways. There are so many ways. I'm always surprised how many new ways there are in order to add hormones. I just see the time. But these hormones are kind of really a blessing nowadays, that are just worth it to open up to it, to see what is the difference. And then we can also play with them like we need to do with supplements, with herbs, with any other thing that we are recommended and that we believe in. We need to take them for a certain way, for a certain time, observe ourselves, and then from there make our choices again. But hormones, it's important to know hormones are natural, and hormones keep us alive, and hormones keep us going through the life. And when nature decides that we are done, then they are quite brutal, and they let us really kind of down, especially women, depending how we experience. Each one of us experience it really differently. When you consider, when we are looking for tools to help us through these strong symptoms, such as sleeping issues, hot flashes that are horrible, that can really decrease our life quality a lot, night sweats, mood swings that we cannot explain, having a look into our hormonal level, making an analysis of our blood, and really trust with a trusted practitioner going through this analysis that we made from our blood, how our hormone level is that keep us alive. I think this is the first important step, and then from there we can look for different solutions, whether it is on herbs, with practitioners, with needles, with treatments, with food supplements, or with hormones, and really see what suits us best. And knowing that this needs really time, and that sometimes we need to step back from something we were hanging on to because it was an opinion and experience with it, and open up to other opinions, to the evolution of science. Again, here, amazing what science is doing and offering us, and then take it from there again. I can only invite you to do that. I'm a hormone child. I have always taken the hormones because I have reacted quite well to them, and they have done wonders in me. I would not like to miss them. I stopped taking them when I was 50, and I wanted to see what my body did. And I did it for a year and a half. And my body reacted in a way that I was really afterwards so happy that there were new forms of combining progesterone, estrogen in a natural way, in an oral form, with cream, with spray, that I can also regulate every day in a different way, as I have a different relationship and constitution also every day. And one day maybe I don't want to take anything, and the other day I can go to my natural rhythm. I do not want to convince you to take hormones, not at all. I just know in many conversations that I have with women of my age and with a lot of younger women who move in a very healthy lifestyle and are very conscious, that there is also a big misunderstanding of hormones and what it means when we can take them if we have the choice. But it's very important that each one of us will make our own decisions and takes the symptoms and reactions of our body seriously. We need to give it a time, whatever we start with. Like I would say 3 months, we always have to see if there is not a strong reaction against it, where we say after a week already, I don't want to have this powder, I don't want to have this capsule, or I don't want to take this hormone. Then 3 months is the time that I would recommend to really give it a time when you try something out. And remember, it's not only what we add, but it's also what we let go, what we say, I don't want this anymore. Also in food, maybe being aware that some foods are not so good for us anymore, as digestion becomes more important and more sensitive with the age, with the imbalance that's already there in our body. It can be of the daily time schedule, also how we spend our free time, how many appointments do we put in, even if it's with people we love, and how much the speed, also how much do we run, being aware, how much can I bring in, when do I need a pause, what is the time of the day when I have the most energy. Some flourish in the morning, others start to really wake up in the evening. And then I think, or also of course the movement, where do I want and need to add some movement, and where am I too much, have I too much and create too much additional stress for our body. So this was a half an hour Spanish, half an hour here. I hope you got something out, a little bit of it, some reminders of how amazing the body works. Some reminders, also realization how brutal nature also can be and is. And also being aware of the incredible possibilities that we have today. And that it is about us to verbalize it, to look for advice, to make it a topic with different generations of women. And we will be surprised what younger women will tell us, or what older women can teach us, and vice versa. So let's stay open to the continuous changing world, to our continuous changing body, to our continuous changing perception of our mind, things that we need to let go, maybe that's scary, values, um, things we were convinced of. And let's just let's keep moving in a gentle flow, staying open, taking care of ourselves. No shame, no guilt when we have to retreat and rest and really know ourselves in a way that we can age with grace and with power and with joy. So I wish you a wonderful evening, morning, day, wherever you are. And I encourage you to keep investigating, keep trying, and enjoy this journey of being a woman in these very exciting times that we live in. Thank you so, so much. You can always reach out to me through my email address that you find on my website. And from today on, my new website is now also live. The Yoga Therapy Mallorca will still exist for a while independently, and then it will all go to mirjamwagner.com. You can already check it out if you want. Those who are members of my online studio or have the online courses, you will get emails from me in the next weeks with instructions and codes to make the transition of your accounts and your products to my new site. I hope you will enjoy it. Again, thank you so, so much for listening, and all the best for you. Thank you.